9:06 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's going on? It's Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona. It only took me a whole show to get used to the time change. It's 7 a.m. here, 9 a.m. Where you guys are. I'm broadcasting live from the Turning Point USA studios. The guys here were nice enough to let me commandeer the studios to do my show, and I'm eternally grateful for them, for the trust, and for allowing me in to this beautiful studio. I was actually FaceTiming with Mac before we got on the air, and I gave him a little tour. It's nice here, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, dude, it's so nice.
Mac was a little
jealous. Yeah, very jealous.
We have studio goals now.
Yeah, for real. Yes, we have aspirations. That's all it is.
Yeah, exactly. This is one of my favorite days of the week. It's Agenda-Free Friday, so anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. The phone lines are officially open. The Super Text line is always open. Both the numbers are the same, 615-737-9986, 615-737-9986. I do want to start today with updates from Maine. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked yesterday, will Joe Biden visit Maine? And here was her answer. Oh, sorry, we're still working on the kinks in the audio. But, my initial reaction is, will Joe Biden visit Maine? Probably. There's a lot more Democrats there than East Palestine, Ohio. But this was Karine Jean-Pierre's reaction when she was asked, will Joe Biden visit Maine?
Anticipate the president going to Lewiston, Maine, when things settle down?
I don't have anything. I don't certainly want to get ahead of the president's schedule. Don't have anything to share. It is a dynamic situation on the ground. I think the priority, our focus, is to make sure that Maine and local enforcement has the resources that it needs. That's what the president wants to make sure happens. We got to catch this killer, right? Bring him to justice. That is incredibly important as well. And so we are with the community on the ground, clearly, and certainly are going. The president wants to make sure that they have the resource that they need in this really, really critical time.
Yeah, so they have to catch him. Mac, you said you have a live update on.
I just said they're doing a live update, right? They're doing another press briefing.
They're doing a press briefing right now
on that search.
I think the main thing that Karine Jean-Pierre said that stuck out to me was, well, we need to make sure they have the resources to find this killer first before we decide if Joe Biden's going to visit there. And that kind of rang true to me because I feel like a lot of Democrats are jumping the gun, no pun intended, with their calls for gun control and, turning this narrative into a Democrat bonus. And they haven't even caught the guy yet. They have not caught the man yet. Just can we catch him first? Can we? They don't want to wait for that, though. No. They have no time for that when they're crafting narratives. Now, more is coming out about Robert Card, the person of interest that police are seeking. Breitbart.com has a report that police took him. They took him for an evaluation in July to a mental health facility. They took him there. And everybody screams, we need more gun control, we need more rules, we need more laws. But they actually have a thing called the yellow card. The yellow flag rule on the books. They don't have red flag laws, but they do have a yellow flag law. And I was like, well, what is a yellow flag? Well, Maine's so-called yellow flag law took effect back in 2020. And it changed protective custody law to allow law enforcement to temporarily take guns away from people who may be in danger of hurting themselves or others. And under Maine state law, which is unique, a medical practitioner must sign off on the request first to determine the person's mental condition. Well, police took him to the mental health facility. Why didn't they use the rule that they had in place? I thought these rules were supposed to save people. Well, shocker, more rules doesn't mean more safety. Now, under this yellow flag law in Maine, if the person's weapons are taken away, they can only get them back when a judge deems them no longer a major threat. But they didn't do anything with that. They probably didn't even think to do that. But what do we know about Robert Card? Well, he's an Army reservist, and he did catch the attention of military officials after acting erratically in mid-July while taking part in training at West Point. So the people in the government were aware of this man. The local government took him to the mental health facility. Nobody triggered the law that they have on the books to take his firearms away. So we're just going to make new rules now. That seems to be the only reasonable expectation. Now, Karine Jean-Pierre basically went on a tirade about gun grabbing during her press conference yesterday. You know, she's very reserved. Will Joe Biden visit Maine? No. We have to wait. You know, we have to catch the shooter. Well, what about new rules and laws? Well, she made the comment that new Speaker of the House Mike Johnson isn't a fan of gun safety, which is it's so funny to me. You know, there's really only one type of gun safety if you're keeping score at home. It's training and education. That's gun safety. No laws on the books are going to make guns make guns safe. There's no such thing as a gun safety law. But Karine Jean-Pierre went on a gun grabbing rant, if you will. This was her yesterday talking about gun grabbing.
Speaker Johnson's voting record shows that he is strongly opposed to gun safety legislation. Even when Democrats controlled Congress, they could not pass the universal background checks or the assault weapons ban. So what realistically can get done with this speaker? How can a deal around this be cut?
Look, I hear the question. I mean, look what just happened last night. Look what happened. In Maine, in a small community, I think about 30,000 people, and clearly, the gunman is still at large. And so it's a dynamic situation on the ground. But as far as we know, 18 people were killed. And we should not have weapons of war in our communities, in our schools, and anywhere in our communities. And this is an epidemic. This is a gun violence epidemic. And the time is now to act.
The time is now to act. Will Joe Biden visit Maine? Well, let's catch him first. Should we have more gun rules? Yes, the time is now to act. It's amazing, isn't it? They speak out of both sides of their mouth. 615-737-9986 if you want to chime in. You know, Karine Jean-Pierre didn't stop there. She made it clear during this gun-grabbing tirade that Republicans could end this. Republicans have the power to end this. This is Karine Jean-Pierre explaining that Republicans could end this.
And here's the thing. Speaker Johnson and all of the members on the Hill, Republicans in Congress, they have the ability to stop this. They have the ability to put forth legislation to deal with this issue. They can change this. They can help save lives. And we're just not going to take, it's great to hear thoughts and prayers. We obviously want to give the families who are dealing with this tragedy and the victims who are clearly dealing with this tragedy. Obviously, we want them to make sure that they know that they're in our thoughts and prayers. But that's not enough. That's not enough.
That's not enough. We need more rules. Never mind the fact that Maine already had the yellow flag law on the books and they didn't do anything with it. We need more rules to stop this now. Sally in Cumberland, you have a comment on gun control. Sally, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up?
Yes, hi. And this just doesn't apply to gun control. I think one of the issues between Democrats and conservatives is how to handle the human condition. Democrats think that you can put all these rules in place to handle the human condition, but the human condition is a heart issue. It's not a head issue. So I think that doing away with raising our kids with morality and understanding right from wrong and good and evil has really decayed society because we're not handling the human condition, which is a heart. And the Bible says the heart is deceitful above all things, which means we need to understand in our brain when our emotions are telling us to do something that's not right. And we're not brought up anymore to believe that. And so We threw the Bible away. And even though if you don't believe in God, you don't believe in Jesus, the Bible actually, if people would read it, is the best way to form a good, solid society. That's the best rule book there is.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, it takes you to your heart. What are you think? So you can think, what am I thinking? Is this right? Am I going to have consequences? Am I going to have, moral issues? And so I guess that's it. I just,
No, I think that you're so true, and I really appreciate the call, Sally. Thank you so much. They took the Bible out of the school a long time ago. When the Bible was in schools, kids were showing up with their hunting rifles on the gun rack. It was no big issue at all. There were no school shootings, but yeah, you take the Bible out of society, and it decays. I think that's a great point. Another point is they never look at the mental health issues with all of these shooters in these mass shootings. They never look at the mental health drugs that they're on. That's not an issue. The issue is always the gun. This man was committed by police for a mental health evaluation. Maine has yellow flag laws on the books. They could have taken his firearms away, and they didn't. Now they want to take away your guns. Jason in Etheridge, you have a comment on this. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jason?
You just actually kind of hit on it. The issue, in my opinion, is it's the mental health issue. I believe all of these mass shooters, going all back to Columbine, all these people are on SSRI medication.
Yep.
So why are we not looking at the common denominator in every one of these cases of the SSRIs? What do we, about 44% of the population is on these medications?
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't worry about the long term.
issue.
They don't worry about the long term effects on these things.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
and like I said, it's a mental health issue. It's not a gun control issue. And until they actually start diving into curtailing the mental health issue in the country, it's going to continue no matter what laws you put on it. Because if you're going to break the law, you don't care what the law is.
Oh,
You're going to get it anyways.
You're absolutely right. I mean, murder's been a rule on the books. You can't do murder since Moses walked down the hill. The new rules aren't going to change anything.
Right.
But and to your point, and thank you for the call, Jason. I really appreciate it. I think you're spot on. To your point, the common denominator is mental health. The common denominator is these drugs that all of these shooters just coincidentally seem to be on. But if you're a Democrat, the common denominator is guns are bad. Guns are bad. We have over 70 million gun owners in this country, hundreds of millions of guns in this country. Nothing bad ever happens with the law-abiding citizens. So do you really think new rules are going to change this? I don't. That doesn't stop our elected Democrats from using this tragedy as a way to move the chains down the field to their ultimate goal, which is de-arming the population. And I think it's wrong. They haven't even caught this man yet, and they're already pushing for gun control. Heck, Kamala Harris was basically pushing for Australian-esque gun confiscation. Gun confiscation. Just spoiler alert, it didn't really work very well in Australia if you look at the hard data. We'll talk about that. We'll also talk about all of these politicians that are jumping into this debate about taking away your guns when you did nothing wrong. A crazy person did something wrong, so now we have to give up our guns. It's unbelievable. Plus, we can also talk about anything you want to talk about. It's an agenda-free Friday, so phone lines are open. No topic is off limits. 615-737-9986. Thank you for joining me. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Manhunt in Maine, authorities giving another update. They have hundreds of tips and witnesses that they're having to work through. We'll give you some details on the search for that mass shooting suspect there. Also, there have been some new developments in and around the Israel-Hamas war, and it involves U.S. fighter jets. We'll tell you about that, too, coming up at 9:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
I think that after these last 2 weeks of headlines, Ken Weaver is going to need a vacation.
Yes, I agree.
It's been the craziest news cycle. And Ken, you've been just crushing it.
Well, thank you, Brother Chris.
Yeah, man. I mean, this hasn't been easy stuff to cover.
No, it is not. And it's kind of like what we have discussed. Once Israel does go into Gaza with this ground campaign, it's going to get worse.
Oh, it always will get worse before it gets better.
And you know what's happening, dude? Iran and their subordinates, they're trying to drag us into this.
Oh,
they are trying to drag us into this.
Well, it benefits them
rapidly.
if we're dragged into it.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean it's a play. Like you can kind of choreograph the moves if you're paying attention enough. But I look forward to your newscast coming up at oh geez, I'm messing up the time again. 9:30.
Hey, nice.
I almost said 7:30. I was really close. I'm broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona. I'm at the Turning Point USA studios. These guys are so kind to me to let me use the podcast studios here while I'm in town doing some work, and I'm eternally grateful for that. We were talking about gun control, and it seems like everybody, because of this Maine incident, is pushing for gun control. John in Clarksville, you have a comment on gun control. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, John?
Yes, good morning. In listening to what y'all were saying, it comes to mind that, yes, the audience seems to know and you seem to know that this is a mental health issue. The thing is, the left, and I'm just going to call them communists, want to use any gun issue for confiscation. They want to totally take the guns from law-abiding citizens in the Americans where they can take over. That's my opinion.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. Thanks for the call, John. I mean, they're pushing for it before they've even caught the guy. And if we've learned anything from Israel, right? Like, if you've learned anything, it's always the soft targets, right? Like, the Hamas paraglided into a music festival. I bet you there were quite a few people that wish they were armed when that happened. I would have wanted to be armed when that happened. It would have been a different situation if you saw them coming in and you were armed. I truly believe that. If the majority of those music festival goers had their carry firearm on them, it could have been a lot different. And it seems like these shooters, these terrorists, they only go after the soft targets. It's sad, but it's predictable. And it's also predictable that the left will use any tragedy to try and take away your right to own a firearm. They will not let any tragedy go to waste. It's actually disgusting. I mean, the man has not even been caught yet. But hey, let's push for gun control. Kamala Harris did that when she was talking to with the Australian Prime Minister, and she basically applauded Australia's gun confiscation program. We'll talk about that next after Ken Weaver's news, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
(9:30) on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Got the full forecast in 2 minutes. Manhunt in Maine. Authorities are giving an update as I speak. They say they're working on more than 530 tips and leads provided by the public in the search for mass shooting suspect Robert Card. Divers are going to be searching the water around the boat launch where Card's vehicle was found after 18 people were killed and 13 wounded in the shootings at that bar and that bowling alley Wednesday night. Israel-Hamas war. Crowds of Israelis gathering in Tel Aviv this morning after a Hamas rocket reportedly destroyed an apartment building, injuring several people, escalating tensions amid that looming ground invasion into Gaza. Meanwhile, U.S. airstrikes in Syria on facilities used by Iranian forces and their proxies, said to be retaliation for recent rocket and drone attacks targeting U.S. forces in the region. National Security Council spokesman John Kirby says there is an expectation that Iran might strike back. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit?
You haven't put your head down in your crawl space lately. I suggest you do.
We see the star that shows that we would have the best benefit.
We had a critter down there,
now, this
and I
is
realized,
one person finally at age 67, the other person at age 70.
Didn't know what to do at first.
A lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire.
We're working on a plan to get my crawl space fully encapsulated.
Not necessarily the case.
When you poke your head in your crawl space, look for these things.
One may take it at one age, and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now.
Basement walls, cracks
now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65?
They know exactly what your house
needs. So if
you're noticing any of those things, give them a call to check it out. 615.
When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies.
Call USS today.
If this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. It's an agenda-free Friday. 615-737-9986 if you want to talk about something. We've been talking about what seems to be the only thing the Democrats talk about whenever there's a mass shooting. It's gun control and gun confiscation. Jolton in Mount Eagle, you've been waiting for a minute, man. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Jolton?
Yeah,
hey, Jolton.
Hey, I was calling in. I keep hearing about a law that's trying to be passed or was passed, or either way, so taking driver's license if you threaten a school or whatever that law was. What do they think that's going to do? I mean, these kids that are shooting up schools, or even adults, it don't matter either way. They're not expecting to walk out of there. So,
it's a fair point.
What's taking a license going to do?
Well, and they're breaking the law anyway. There's already laws against murder. It's like more laws aren't going to impact criminals. They're only going to impact law-abiding citizens. And they never.
I think the only, and this is, even people that are okay with guns or for guns, not all of them agree with me on this, but I do believe that teachers that would like to be trained or, obviously thoroughly vet them and train them well if they're going to have a gun. But I think having a way to stop a shooter is more important than I'm going to take your license if you shoot up the school.
Yeah.
Or threaten to shoot up the school. That don't make any sense.
I totally agree with you. Thanks for the call, Jolton. I really appreciate you, man. And they never address the issue that it seems like all of these shooters are on these mental health drugs. I got a text from 4353. It said, makes me wonder how many of the DC Einsteins who want to grab our guns are on these antidepressant drugs themselves. 4353, I would reckon it was probably a lot. I mean, have you seen Rashida Tlaib or AOC? I mean, in some cases, if they're not, maybe they should be. Maybe they should be. But the government, they won't even wait. They won't even wait for this gentleman to be caught. They just want to take your guns away. Cedric in Kentucky, you've been waiting a minute. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Cedric?
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. I was listening a while ago, and I know I heard a couple guys speaking about, law-abiding citizens. Now, the guy that's doing this shooting, that did these killings, now he was a law-abiding citizen. Am I correct, or was he not supposed to have them guns? My point is this: if he is mentally unstable, to an extent, we're all mentally unstable, because I'm sure you can agree that there's a very thin line between sanity and insanity, because at any time any of us can cross that line, whether we are mentally unstable or not, because we get mad about situations sometimes that could cause us to do things immediately before we think about situations. Have you ever got angry about something and it makes you real mad and you want to respond to something, and then all of a sudden you catch yourself and don't do it? You see what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, and I also will point out that I don't think new rules and new laws are going to stop this. I mean, if the man was mentally unstable and he didn't have access to firearms, maybe he drives a car through a crowd. It just in Maine, they brought him into a mental health facility. Police brought him into a mental health facility. Maine has yellow flag laws where they could have taken his firearms away, and they chose not to. They chose not to act on the rules on the books. So you can push for more rules. I don't think that that's going to be the solution.
No. I had a brother that went through the same thing, and when he had went to an institution and come home, they immediately dealt with that situation, seen that he had a problem, and removed the firearms, because they knew that he was going to go to a second stage. So I see exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta look out for your people and take care of them. But the fact that Maine has the rules, they have the rules that everybody pushes for anytime this thing happens, and they drop the ball. They don't act on the rules on the books, and now we need more rules, and we need to have our guns taken away. No, hard pass.
No, that's right. That's right.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Cedric. Always appreciate you listening, my man. It's an agenda-free Friday. Phone lines are open, 615-737-9986. I always go back to, the Bible on this stuff. If God bans the rock when during Cain and Abel, then David is defenseless. It just seems silly to me. John in Springfield, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, John?
Hey, Chris. I want to start out by saying I'm a radical libertarian, minus the. Well, actually, that's not true. Pretty much for everything.
Okay.
And my plan for gun control will not work because politicians won't vote for it. But just remove all the restrictions for carry on campus. Roughly 10% of people in Tennessee have a carry permit. About 5% of them carry at any given time. So anytime a parent, a older brother or sister goes to a school, there's a pretty high chance that someone is carrying. You've hardened the place. All of the teachers who are, have a carry permit are now able to carry. You've also increased it. My wife is an SRO, but not every school, looking at you, Metro Nashville, has an SRO. And even if they do, who's the first person you're going to shoot if you go to my wife's school? You're going to shoot my wife. I mean, hello, that's just common sense. Now you've given yourself 15 or 20 minutes to do mayhem, whereas if all of the prohibitions for carry are lifted, if I happen to be visiting my wife, now there are two of us.
Yep.
The principal, the janitor, the special ed lady, whatever. We now have a chance to save kids. Speed bumps at a minimum. It'll never happen, but it is the right answer.
No, I think you're spot on, John. And if me personally, my kids' school, they have an SRO. It does make me feel more confident in the school that they could respond to anything that would happen. But I think more teachers, if they wanted to carry that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. You mean you have teachers? You have teachers that want to protect the kids that they're in charge of protecting? What a novel concept.
Well, the thing is, it has to do with vested interest. I know my wife. I know she will step in front of a bullet to save the kids. But we also know what has happened in other schools where the SRO left campus while an active shooter was going on. If you're a teacher, you have a vested interest because your butt is being protected. If you're a parent, you have a vested interest because you're protecting your kid, and then by accident or, by luck or whatever, you're protecting the other kids. If I'm paid to do something, I have less of an active interest than if it's my relatives, my children. And that's why it's so much better. Don't get me wrong. I love the fact that my wife is there and she makes a decent coin doing it, and she would do a great job. But even she would admit it would be great if there were 3 or 4 other people that were there that could back her up in 30 seconds as opposed to 15 or 20 minutes.
Couldn't agree with you more, John. Thank you for the call. When seconds matter, police are minutes away. And even CNN last night, CNN is talking about the Maine shooting, and the CNN host says the quiet part out loud. She says, and I'm looking, of course, in the photo that we're seeing, he's at a bowling alley. We've heard from eyewitnesses. They saw children running out of the bowling alley. Absolutely so sad. She goes on to say it could have potentially had many children inside. This is not going to a gun range. This is not going to a place where perhaps he would believe he could encounter people who could respond. These are essentially soft targets. That's what they said on CNN. Even CNN is saying the quiet part out loud. These gun-free zones, the sign out front that says you can't bring your firearm in here, that doesn't make it safer. It makes it softer. It's crazy that you have to have this argument every single time. But the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Tommy in Murfreesboro, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Tommy?
Hey, Chris, how you doing this morning?
Good, man. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. I just want to call in to reiterate on what the guy was talking about earlier as far as if you make a school threat, you lose your driver's license.
Yep.
I believe it was Rutherford County School Board that passed that yesterday, and I believe my opinion is this is to heighten the awareness to the children that this is not a joke if you call into schools and threaten to do damage, do harm to people. So to take a child at 16 who just got his driver's license, that's one of the most important things in that child's life at that time. So if you take it, that just pushes that message even further that this is not a joke to call in these schools.
Yeah, no, and you know, when you put it that way, it's like, listen, the kids are dumb, right? So you might not think into the future about calling it a threat. You just want the day off of school. So that's a serious punishment. I get that. I do. And I appreciate the call, and I appreciate you expanding on that. Thanks so much, Tommy.
Yes.
Sean in Lebanon, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Sean?
Hey, morning, Chris.
Hey, good morning.
Listening to everything this morning, I mean, this goes back to, I'm originally from the Chicago area, and Rahm Emanuel had a quote about, you never let a serious crisis go to waste.
Yep.
That is the mindset of this Democratic Party. They don't care about fixing the problem. It's just they're glad the problem happened so they can further push their agenda.
Well, and that's why they're not even waiting for this gentleman to be caught before they start screaming from the rooftops that we need to go follow in Australia's footsteps.
Exactly. I mean, Rahm was one of the worst I saw for my career up there with the police department until Lori Lightfoot was elected, and I would take Rich Daley back in a heartbeat, and I wouldn't help him if he was in the middle of the road. So it just, it's disgusting where they put their priorities.
It honestly, it is. It's like everything is political, and like you said, they never let a crisis go to waste. That if you remember any one quote from any one Democrat ever, remember that quote from Rahm Emanuel: "Never let a crisis go to waste," because any crisis that happens, you see it in real time that they do not let it go to waste.
Yep. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for the call, Sean. I really appreciate it. Pedro in Nashville, you have a comment on the mass shooting in Maine. Pedro, you're on Super Talk 99.7. What's up?
Yes, good morning, Chris. My pet peeve is calling the shooter a gentleman. They are not gentlemen. Gentlemen don't do shootings like this guy did. And
fair enough.
Also,
did I say that? Was that me?
Yes.
All right, my mistake. He was a monster. He was a monster, for the record, I don't want that to be... I want to be clear on that.
That's correct. And also the lack of values and mores is what's killing us in this society. And that's all I have to say.
Hey, I really appreciate the call, and thank you for voicing your opinion. I do appreciate it. And this guy wasn't a gentleman at all. Absolute monster. Rob, Danny, Josh, I see you guys hanging on the line. We'll get to your calls next. I mean, I still have more audio on this. When Kamala Harris is looking at the Australian Prime Minister and says, we should do what you guys did. I think that should give serious pause to all Americans. I got that audio on the way, plus my thoughts on Australians' gun confiscation, their gun control measures that they did in the 90s, and why it's kind of, false that really did any good. I'll expand on that coming up next. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Specifically regarding precision ag, this is a movement or an initiative that Pheasants and Quail Forever is taking on where we can help farmers take advantage of the data they collect and during harvest, during planting season, and use that to identify areas in the field that are underproducing for whatever reason. Maybe it's shade, water, there's perennial wet spots, odd areas that are just hard to farm. Farm equipment's getting big now, and it's hard to farm some of these smaller areas. And so these areas that the yield isn't high enough to exceed the input costs, we're losing money on those acres. So Are there some alternate land use covers, wildlife covers that we can use and put on the ground that benefit wildlife but also benefit the bottom line? There's a lot of opportunities, a lot of conservation programs and conservation practices out there that can benefit the land, and they require management. And so some people might be familiar with the Conservation Reserve Program, or CRP. And that is a program administered by USDA for farmers and landowners to take those certain areas out of production and return them to a wildlife cover beneficial to different wildlife.
We started taking non-productive acres years ago and putting them in CRP, and seeing a great benefit of that, not only for wildlife, but erosion control and the money side of it. You know, we have to make a living to stay in business just like everybody else. You know, if you've got non-productive acres that you're losing money on, and you can get something out of them, plus benefit the soil from erosion, plus benefit the wildlife,
Got a crash blocking the way in Goodlettsville. It's Vietnam Veterans Boulevard westbound right there at Conference Drive. The right lane is blocked. Manhunt in Maine. We'll tell you what authorities just updated. Escalating tensions in the Israel-Hamas war. U.S. warplanes ordered into action nearby. These stories and more coming up at 10 on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It is Supertalk 99.7 WTN. This is an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. Danny in Kingston Springs, you say you have a different take on the shooter and the mental health facilities. Danny, you're on Supertalk. What's up?
Good morning, Chris. Our family has kind of been through this institutionalized stuff in the past 4 years. And I lay some of the blame to insurance companies just for the fact that, well, this young adult was kind of like this guy in Maine. They were hearing voices. And the authorities would show up to our house, and they would take her, and they would evaluate them, and then they would put them in a hospital. And in 2 weeks, we get a phone call to come pick them up. Are they good? And then about 2 months later, we do this again.
And you think it's because the insurance companies aren't footing the bill on this kind of stuff?
That's what every time we would get an answer to. Okay, why are they being released after 2 weeks? Well, that's all the insurance companies will pay for.
Oh, that's a hot take. I like that. I'll look into that, Danny. That's.
Well, I mean, you know, and I understand we don't have enough facilities.
Yep, that's
you
for
know,
sure.
And especially for juveniles.
Yep. Hey, you're absolutely right, Danny. And I appreciate the call. I appreciate the different take. And I think that the one thing that's being ignored in all of these shootings is the mental health and the drugs that these shooters are on for mental health. But we'll pick up with more of your phone calls next. It is 10 o'clock on Supertalk 99.7 WTN.
Ten o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Good news, Goodlettsville. They just cleared that crash blocking Vietnam veterans, so you can proceed without any interruption. Full forecast coming up in 2 minutes. Manhunt in Maine. Authorities say they're working on more than 530 tips and leads in the search for mass shooting suspect Robert Card. Divers will be searching the water around the boat launch where Card's vehicle was found after 18 people were killed and 13 wounded in the shootings at the bar and the bowling alley on Wednesday night. Here's Trevor Ault.
There are still several people who are fighting to survive in the hospital. The chief medical officer here tells me not only do they prepare for mass casualties, they had an event training for this type of mass casualty event within the past month.
Meanwhile, investigators say they're still searching that bar and bowling alley for evidence, and they're days away from clearing those scenes. Israel-Hamas war. U.S. airstrikes carried out in Syria on facilities used by Iranian forces and their proxies.
White House National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said it was in self-defense that the U.S. targeted and struck 2 facilities linked to Iranian-backed militias in eastern Syria. Kirby said it comes after
our forces and facilities had come under a range of attacks, rocket attacks largely by these proxy groups, but that are backed by Iran.
Kirby also said it's not uncommon for Iran to strike back.
If they do, we'll absolutely do what we have to do to protect our troops and our facilities. We'll be ready for that.
U.S. officials stress this is separate from the conflict in Israel.
MWN reporting right now in Israel, crowds of civilians gathered in Tel Aviv this morning after a Hamas rocket reportedly destroyed an apartment building, injuring several people, escalating tensions amid that looming ground invasion into Gaza. And what does the new Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives say?
The new House Speaker says Republicans are likely to set aside the president's $106 billion proposal and instead take up separate support measures for Israel and Ukraine. Mike Johnson says the House may pass more aid for Israel than the $14 billion the president has requested, while looking for equal cuts elsewhere in the budget. Johnson says the U.S. will not abandon the Ukrainians, but House Republicans will demand more details before approving more funds.
That is Stephen Portnoy reporting, and the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
Well, you heard it there in my intro. Government is not the solution to your problem. Government is the problem. And, they're going to try and push rules for gun confiscation after what we witnessed in Maine. They're not even waiting for this monster to be caught. They're not. They're not waiting for that. They're already pushing for new measures for gun control, totally ignoring the fact that Maine has a yellow flag law in the books, and they could have taken the firearms away from this gentleman. I am so sorry I keep saying gentleman. This monster, after police took him to a mental health facility in July, and they chose not to. They chose not to. What's the super text line saying, Mac? I see a bunch of texts coming in.
So many texts coming in. We've got here one from 5069. I'll bet the ones up there in Maine that are sheltering in place because of the mass murderer that's hiding out have unloaded all of their guns and put them up, and they'll just call police if they see him.
Yeah, that's probably exactly what they're doing. I said this yesterday, when they told everybody to shelter in place, I would have said, get armed and shelter in place. But, but when seconds count, police are minutes away. So let's put our guns away.
Got 4357 reopen state mental institutes so they can get care and also be isolated from the public.
Listen, I think that this is a big problem, the mental health facilities being closed. And we had that last caller a minute ago saying, we need to look at these insurance companies. They're only paying for 2 weeks, and then you get released because they're not footing the bill. And that's a shame. That puts people at risk. When you get checked in and there's basically a timer of how long they're willing to keep you, not keeping you until you're better, that's a problem. That's absolutely a problem.
Well, we got a first-time texter here, Chris.
All right, what'd they say?
8060. The kicker is they want to take guns away from us, but no matter what rules or safety they think they're doing, if a criminal wants to get a gun, they will. So how's the average person supposed to protect themselves if they take our guns away? Also, if they do that, the criminals will start using knives, bows, etc. Are they going to ban every knife and bow? That's Ginny from Clarksville.
Yeah, it's a great text. You're absolutely right, Jenny. The criminals are still going to do criminal things. Like, you're only going to hurt law-abiding citizens with these new laws that you're pushing for. Everybody points to Australia, but the black market for firearms in Australia is booming. It's booming. But they don't want to have that conversation. They don't want to have the conversation about the gentleman I keep saying gentleman. That's just a crutch. I'm sorry. The monster in Wisconsin, the black guy who ran over people in a Christmas parade. They didn't want to politicize that. But if it's a firearm that's used, they will politicize it. It's unbelievable. Let's go to Wade on line 4. He's been hanging on for a minute. You want to talk gun control? What's up, Wade? You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hi. Hold on. My stupid phone.
Yeah, I hate phones.
There we go. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, look, I really feel that people are in the September 10th mindset. Okay, in other words, we didn't know that on September 10th, nobody thought of, hey, let's stop the box cutters. Let's let people on box cutters on the airplanes, and then they're going to fly them in the buildings, because they were like, no, if someone's going to hijack an airplane, they're going to go to another country, right? And September 11th changed all that. Well, I kind of feel like it's the same thing with this thing in Gaza, where the Hamas went and did something that we never thought of. They went and paraglided in, and they took hostages, and they shot up people, and people just weren't thinking about that. Well, it's the same thing now. According to Gordon Chang, we have 500 military-age Chinese males coming in every week. Okay, that's according to him. And we don't know how many other people are coming in, right? But, I live up in the boonies, and there's maybe 3 cops, within an hour of me. And, if they do something, if Hamas or the Chinese, all of a sudden, they're going to do something that we're not anticipating. That's my point. We don't know what they're going to do, right? And so, I bought an AR this year, and I'm trained on it, and I've actually gone overseas and deployed, and, so I know how to handle a gun. But, when they start talking about taking away my guns, it's like, okay, what are you not thinking about, pal? We could pass these laws. Will they really stop the next one? And also, if we make guns illegal here, all they're going to do is they're going to Chinese, or if we make manufacturing guns illegal here, Chinese are just going to ship more AKs over the border, because that's what they do with fentanyl and everything else that's illegal here. This is totally stupid. Anyway, that's my point, buddy. I enjoy your show.
I love it, Wade. Thanks for calling in. I totally agree with you. It's if they disarm the public, well, then we're going to be defenseless. And you look at that open southern border. I mean, like Wade said, we have Chinese nationals coming over. We have Hamas terrorists coming over. We have hundreds of special interest aliens coming across the border, and that's just the ones we know about. That's just what we know about. What about the secret police stations that the Chinese are operating in our country? They're here, and your government wants you defenseless. It's unbelievable. Let's go to Rob. Rob has been waiting a hot minute. Rob, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks for holding, Rob.
Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to say, I understand we have a problem and we need something to be done, but the laws they have now aren't even that great. For example, you can get a felony for putting the wrong tag on your car and lose your gun rights. I don't think that's right. Or you can have a woman call in, and the cops are going to take somebody if somebody calls for domestic. You might not have done nothing, you'll lose your rights. I think it needs to be a case-by-case situation, personally.
No,
Don't put everybody in the same.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think case by case is definitely the way to go. And I think there are situations where you can look at something objectively and say, yeah, maybe this guy shouldn't have a firearm. but just banning them outright is not the move.
No, I don't think so.
No, but thanks for the call, Rob. But if you were to ask Kamala Harris that, she wants us to be just like Australia. This was Kamala Harris talking yesterday when she did a little press conference with the Prime Minister of Australia.
Gun violence has terrorized and traumatized so many of our communities in this country. And let us be clear, it does not have to be this way, as our friends in Australia have demonstrated.
Oh, as our friends in Australia have demonstrated. Now, Australia put in legislation in 1996, and if you look at the what has transpired since 1996 in Australia, tons of places have done research on this. In 2005, the head of New South Wales Bureau of Crime Statistics and Research, the guy by the name of Don Weatherburn, he noted that the level of legal gun ownership in NSW in Australia increased, and that the 1996 legislation had little to no effect on violence. He later stated that the fact is that the introduction of these laws did not result in any acceleration of the downward trend in gun homicides in Australia. It's always unpleasant to acknowledge that these facts are inconsistent with your own point of view. But there was another report that measured the incidence of mass shootings and compared Australia to another similar country, New Zealand, which actually New Zealand has far less restrictions on gun control. The report then concluded that the rate of mass shootings did not decline with the introduction of gun control measures in Australia in 1996. Fast forward, a 2013 report suggested in a conservative estimate that there are a total of 250,000 long guns and 10,000 handguns on the black markets in Australia. Criminals are going to find a way to arm themselves with weapons. That's just what they do. And now they're purchasing them illegally on the black market, or they're using stolen weapons from theft and robberies. Now, you can look at the vice president's comments and statements toward the Australian model of gun control, which all started via basically an Australian version of an executive order for all the states in Australia to adopt gun control measures. And you could say, wow, they did a good job, but they really didn't. Gun laws in Australia have not eliminated mass shootings. They still occur, and they occur at approximately the same rate that they've occurred since 96. Australia's culture has changed over time, and you can note the culture change by the reduction of homicide and suicide since 1980, which is pre-gun control in Australia. I mean, and then when you compare Australia to America, Australia has 1/10 of the population of America. So mass shootings will be less frequent in countries with fewer people. I mean, if you want to decrease gun violence in America, maybe stop spending money on introducing new laws, maybe enforce existing laws, maybe stop illegal immigration and violent criminals from coming into America, maybe prevent illegal weapons from moving through our ports, and a number of maybe try and stop the number of illegal weapons on the black market. But when the left say that we should respond to shootings as Australia did, well, that's just all they really mean is that this is the first phase of mass gun control by the government. That's what they mean when they want to follow in the steps of Australia. David in Smyrna, you're next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. David, what's up, man?
Well, how you doing, Chris? I first want to start off by saying that there's a quote by Lenin that says, "Only an armed people can be the real bulwark of popular liberty." Mm-hmm. Second of all, Australia does not have a Second Amendment. We have a Second Amendment, and I don't like saying stuff like this, but if they were to go door to door taking guns from ordinary citizens, you'd see bloodshed, because that would be, I think, a step too far for too many people. Yes, we own guns to keep ourselves safe from schmucks who would do what this guy in Maine did, but the main reason that we have guns is to protect ourselves from an overbearing government.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with that sentiment, and to the point where I don't think they'll ever go door to door, right? I think that that's a bridge too far, and I think it puts rank and file officers in danger. And I think that they won't do that for that reason. But if you look at the Democrats right now that are basically leftist communists, and you look at communists in general, they always have a 100-year plan. So they'll limit the sale, they'll limit the production, and then 50, 60 years down the road, they're just going to drip, drip, drip waterfall this thing.
Well, either that, like I've heard that the DOD told Winchester that they were going to cancel their DOD contract if Winchester kept making 5.56 ammo for civilian sales. And so far, I mean, I can still get 5.56 ammo. I mean, granted, every time one of these things happens, there's a run on 5.56 ammo like you wouldn't believe, but still to this day, like I have 2 handguns, I have a 12 gauge, I have an AR. Every week, I buy a box of ammo for each different type of gun, and I just keep buying ammo and stockpiling ammo because when they go after it, the first thing they're going to go after is the ammo.
Yeah.
And and also being a Jew, politically conservative Jew, and watching what Hamas did, I'll be damned if I'm going to be unarmed when these Hezbollah or Hamas sleeper cells decide that they want to start breaking into American houses and decapitating people. I'm just to paraphrase a Cypress Hill song, I ain't going out like that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And thanks for the call, David. And I think that people underestimate that the fact that we're so armed has kept us so safe from foreign invaders and war. It was I think it was Russia said, you can't launch a ground invasion in the U.S. because there's a gun behind every blade of grass. That literally is a deterrent. It honestly keeps us safe. And terrorists aren't going to attack like a texter said earlier. They're not going to go after a gun range. They'll go after a soft target. And I think that we need to fortify, and we should be getting more armed in these situations, not the other way. That's just me. Barry in Nashville, you've been hanging on the line for a minute. Thank you for holding. What are you thinking, Barry? What are your thoughts on this Agenda Free Friday?
Well, I was calling to talk about crime in Nashville and some things that can be done to help with the crime in Nashville.
All right, lay it on me, Barry.
Okay, I was hearing last night they were saying that a lot of the jails are overcrowded, and so people have warrants that they aren't serving because they don't have a place to put them. Okay, we have a problem with a lot of abandoned warehouse spaces in Nashville. So my suggestion to help with the crime and also help with homeless population, the city buy these properties or get them for property taxes, whatever they have to do to get these properties, and convert them into jails, some of them, and some of them housing for homeless people, like shelters. And one other thing on top of that, have the homeless people, I'm sure some of those have skills for building, things like that. The people that show an interest, hire them to help with the construction, which is putting money back into the economy. And it's also giving them a sense of accomplishment. And if they're helping with the place that they could be staying, I think that gives them a little hope that they can actually overcome what's going on in their lives.
Hey, I appreciate the call, Barry, and I appreciate always looking for new solutions. I'm actually broadcasting live from Phoenix right now, and on the news last night here in Phoenix, they were talking about transforming an abandoned lot into a homeless encampment, a new tent city. And while Barry, your idea sounded good, I think that brings us into the land of unintended consequences faster than we can shake a stick at it. And for that reason, I can't support that idea. It is 10:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. Glenn, Allen, and an anonymous caller. I see you guys hanging on the line. We'll get to your calls next on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
New developments in the manhunt in Maine. Escalation in Gaza with U.S. warplanes ordered into action elsewhere in that region. The judge in the civil fraud trial of former President Trump has rejected a motion. And gasoline prices are headed, I'll tell you at 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, if I was a betting man, Ken Weaver, I have a feeling on which way I would put my money on. So luckily, I don't do that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I learned my lesson way back in the 4th grade. I bet on a Dallas Cowboys game and lost my week's allowance. And had to explain to my strict Southern Baptist parents where that money went.
You were gambling.
I was
That's
gambling.
hilarious. That is so funny.
I still haven't
never
learned
bet on the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's the lesson.
Oh, I learned that. Yes.
They'll let you down. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's news coming up at 10:30. Before we do that, we have an anonymous caller from Nashville who wants to talk about mental health issues. You've been hanging on the line for a minute, so thank you so much for holding. What's up, Anon? You are on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know, when all these shootings start to happen, people start talking about, well, the guy should have tried to get help and stuff like that. Let me tell you how difficult it is. Recently, not too long ago, I saw the need to, maybe make a mental health appointment.
Okay.
I called 5 different mental health clinics around the Wilson County area. One answered and said that they were not taking on new patients. The other 4, I was forwarded to machines that said, leave your name and number. Of those 4, only one of them called me back 2 weeks later and then made me an appointment a month and a half out from there. And so that delayed everything. And then after all that, they gave me some medication and said, we'll make another appointment in 60 days because it'll take 60 days to see the effect of the medication. Well, in 30 days, that mental health clinic closed down.
Man.
And another one in Trousdale County closed down. Those 2 closed down the same week that Bill Lee was opening those state-run ones that he was bragging about. So I called and I said, look, I'm on this medication and I'm running out. And they said, well, we'll refer you to another place in Murfreesboro. And they said, but they cannot call in your medication for a week. And they said, somebody from that place will call you by the end of the day. Well, that's been 3 weeks ago, and nobody's reached out to me. And when I call that place, I get an answer machine. So that's how difficult it is to get any kind of mental health help in Middle Tennessee.
Well, man, I first I want to thank you for sharing that with us. It's eye-opening, and these things should be funded much better than they are. Secondly, I just want to say, I hope you get the help you need. We'll pray for you, and I'm sorry that you're dealing with that and going through a tough time. But I really appreciate you calling and kind of giving that insight from a first-hand perspective. I truly appreciate that.
All right, appreciate y'all's show.
Hey, man, thanks so much for listening. It's like, can we just fund the things that need to be funded and get the people the help that they need? Is that too much to ask? It is if you're asking a Democrat because they just want to ban your guns. It's 8:30. It's 10:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona, and time zones are tough. It's the Chris Hand Show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Tell you about how warm it's going to get before how cold it's going to get during the full forecast and traffic in 5 minutes. Got a manhunt in Maine update. Dive teams now leading a search near the boat launch where mass shooting suspect Robert Card left his car. Israel-Hamas war. The White House said they'll have to wait and see if Iran strikes back after U.S. fighter jets struck 2 targets in Syria in retaliation to recent attacks against U.S. forces as the conflict in Gaza escalates. Here at home, the New York judge overseeing former President Trump's civil fraud trial has denied a motion to keep his daughter Ivanka from testifying, and the average cost of gasoline, a gallon of it, falling for the 5th consecutive week. Several factors could send prices even lower in the coming weeks, according to folks who watch the industry. Here in Middle Tennessee, the average price is $3.24 per gallon, according to Gas Buddy. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have 2 people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. that is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person finally at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Paul Winkler Inc. I got 4 kids, and me and my wife, we didn't have a financial plan. But once we got to meet up with Paul and his team, we have a plan now. Paul's a smart guy. He knows the financial world better than I do. And him and his team hold themselves to a higher level of fiduciary standard than is required. And because of that, government regulators require that I tell you I'm paid every time this commercial airs. And it's true, I am. But honestly, the real reason I decided to become a client myself, I'm impressed with Paul. I got to sit down with him, have my financial questions answered. And every time I meet with Paul, I learn something new. Their investment education is evidence-based and backed by Nobel Prize-winning research. You will learn something new just by sitting down with Paul and talking to him. So check these guys out. Every office is run by a degreed planner with over 20 years of experience, and you can feel the difference between Paul's team and the rest because that experience equals confidence. So do what I did. Talk to one of his team members. You can set up a complimentary 15-minute phone call right now on his website, paulwinkler.com. That's paulwinkler.com, or call 615-851-1950.
Gun violence has terrorized and traumatized so many of our communities in this country. And let us be clear, it does not have to be this way, as our friends in Australia have demonstrated.
Australia, they're a beacon of hope around the world. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN 1036. My name is Chris Hand. I did want to point out, we had a caller a minute ago who was telling us, firsthand how hard it is to get mental health help in Tennessee. And during the break, Ken shared this with me. The Tennessee statewide crisis phone line. If you or someone you know is in a mental health crisis, there's a number to call. It's 855-CRISIS-1. 855-274-7471. 855-CRISIS-1. I hope that you can get the help that you need, We will keep our prayers up for you. It does sound hard to get mental health help in this country.
And Chris, we just got another text just from 5453 says, could you please tell that anonymous caller to contact NAMI, National Alliance for Mental Illness, a wonderful organization with chapters in every state, and should be able to direct him to the appropriate resources to support in his journey to mental health wellness.
Oh, yeah, I mean, prayers up. So there are resources out there, and I understand it's difficult. You know, we've seen the mental health of this nation get worse since COVID, and it doesn't seem like anybody really wants to address that issue. It's sad, and I hope you get the help you deserve, man. If you're still listening, you're going to be on my heart all day. Also, you know, while they largely ignore the mental health issue in the country, they will blame the gun. And Kamala Harris, she wants us to be like Australia. Well, I do want to point out, researchers from the University of Melbourne in Australia, they emphasized in 2008 that there's little evidence to suggest that the NFA, basically the firearm law they made in 1996, had any significant effect on firearm homicides. When they point to the compensation component of the legislation, the report acknowledged that the evidence so far suggests that in the Australian context, the high expenditure incurred to fund the 1996 buyback has not translated into any tangible reductions in the terms of firearm deaths. And several analyses pointed out it's not true that more guns equate to more murders. You can see this in the U.S. according to data from the CDC, and I know everybody loves the CDC, so let's point to the CDC data we like when we like it, right? In 2018, California and Hawaii, most stringent gun control laws in the country, had homicide rates of 4.8 per 100,000 and 3.1 per 100,000, respectively. Obviously, California coming in high. In contrast, Idaho and New Hampshire, which have some of the freest firearm laws on the books, they had murder rates at 2.3 per 100,000 and 1.8 per 100,000, respectively. It's not the gun. Even a 2018 probe, widely considered the most thorough evaluation on the issue so far. It was conducted by Florida State University's College of Criminology and Criminal Justice. They surmised that the Australian government's own data indicated that the effort failed to reduce homicides, suicides, or unintentional firearm deaths, adding that it is even questionable whether the effort reduced mass shootings. The problem that it triggered the gun control effort in the first place. So you can point at Australia all you want, Democrats, but the data seems to suggest otherwise. And you have to really look for these reports because Google has whitewashed it. I mean, you use a search engine like Google, and the first 5 pages of results are Australia good, guns bad. Alan, on line 4, you've been hanging on the line for a minute. Thank you for holding, Alan. You have a comment on what happened in Maine. Alan, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up?
Hey, thank you, Chris, for having me on the line. As far as weapons go, I'm a Second Amendment believer, and I carry a weapon with me every day, and I have for decades. Mm-hmm. Now, if somebody up there started shooting around me and started killing people there, I would automatically draw my weapon and take this bad dog out. But the problem we got in this country right now, we don't, we put them in jail. They got internet. They got a phone in there. They got all the drugs they want. They need to be pulled out of jail and put on a 15-inch step and walk down these roads right here with a sling blade and start cutting grass and picking up trash. I mean, you got to have some discipline. We've lost all discipline in this country. We've babyfied everybody, and probably the biggest problem I've seen since the smartphone come out, and I use it for education, I don't use it for nothing else, is, we've really dumbed down America, and that's what I see happening, dumbing down America. And one more point, until it touches you, people don't care, and if it ain't about power or money, people don't care.
Yeah.
So that's my rant for the day. Thank you, Chris.
Hey, I appreciate your call, Alan, and thank you for holding for me, man. Yeah, I hard labor. I think he's right. jails, I mean, drugs are prevalent. There are cell phones being snuck in. Do you know how many cell phones were caught during that international or the national alert that they put out on October 4th, was it? Like, so many cell phones were being just busted in jail cells. Weird. Speaking of students and the dumbing down of America, Biden's White House has announced that they will not revoke visas of pro-Hamas foreign students. And I'd love to get your thoughts on this at 615-737-9986. Biden's White House will not revoke visas of pro-Hamas students. This is from Breitbart.com. President Joe Biden's White House has no plans to revoke the visas of those foreign students engaging in demonstrations across United States college campuses in defense of the Islamic terrorist organization Hamas and its attacks on Israel. Now, a number of Republicans have urged Biden's State Department to revoke the visas of pro-Hamas foreign students who hold F-1 visas. And John Kirby said the administration is not going to do that. And I want to know how you feel about it. Senator Marsha Blackburn here in Tennessee, Marco Rubio in Florida, they're leading a resolution urging the Biden administration to revoke the visas of foreign nationals in the U.S. who are involved in pro-Hamas demonstrations, especially those on these F-1 student visas. Blackburn said that she wants to put the security of American citizens first and have President Biden immediately revoke the visas of those who support Hamas and other terrorist groups. There's a bunch of other senators and that have signed the resolution all the way down the line. J.D. Vance, Rick Scott, couple guys we know, Tommy Tuberville. And meanwhile, Rubio and Senator Tom Cotton out of Arkansas have each written top Biden officials at the State Department and the Department of Homeland Security pressing them to revoke these visas. And I'd love to hear what you think about revoking these visas. Cotton wrote to Alejandro Mayorkas, I write to you to urge you immediately to deport any foreign national, including and especially any alien on a student visa that has expressed support for Hamas and its murderous attacks on Israel. My first gut instinct on this is the First Amendment is for Americans. Free speech is for Americans, right? Like, I don't think a foreign visitor immediately is granted all the rights of the Constitution. If you're a foreign visitor and you're pro-Hamas, by default, you are anti-American. So if you look at it, you are now an openly hostile foreigner, and I don't think that should be tolerated. I mean, as a parent, you'll see American college kids doing the same thing, right? And I think that they should be dealt with a little bit more grace because they're Americans and they have the right to free speech. You can be wrong, and I kind of come to this moment of, look, if my son is misbehaving, I'll tolerate it and discipline and continue to love him, right? I have a much higher threshold for that. But if his friend comes over and his friend is acting a fool, well, that friend is not going to be allowed over anymore. I think that these people are guests here, and they should behave accordingly. 615-737-9986. Would you revoke the visas of these pro-Hamas students? Tom texted and he said, why don't we just open the door and let everyone in our country? Oh, wait, we already have.
Bingo.
Oh, jeez. I mean, 2785 texted and said, American citizens have a right to protest in America. They need to go try and protest wherever they came from. Good luck. Yeah, a lot of these views wouldn't be allowed in their home countries. Tommy says, yes, definitely revoke the visas. I think that they should have their visas revoked. If you are a foreigner and you're pro-Hamas and you're on college campuses and you're here by the grace and kindness of the American government, and you've been granted a visa to come learn at some of the what we once considered the best learning institutions in the world, and you're going to be openly anti-American, and I say anti-American because, Hamas chants death to America. This group is anti-American. And if you want to come here as a guest and you want to side with a group that is anti-American, well, I don't think you can stay for dinner. In fiscal year 2022 alone, the federal government provided green cards and non-immigrant visas, including F-1 student visas, to foreign nationals from some of the most pro-Hamas countries in the world. For example, more than 8,300 Iranians arrived in the U.S. last year on non-immigrant visas. Mike in Dixon, you have a comment on these visas. What do you think, Mike? You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, good morning. Yeah, you've got to revoke them. I mean, it's plain to see that they're not here to be a citizen. They're not here to do anything to stir up trouble.
Yeah.
So why not, revoke the thing? They're going to keep on. We're going to have the terrorist attacks and everything here in this country. It's coming. It ain't too far off. It's coming.
Yeah. I mean, why are we inviting them in when they're already sneaking through the southern border, too?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't understand the Democrats' thinking on this. They are destroying this country, and we're going to wake up some morning, and the people here in this country, we're going to be saying, well, what happened? It's going to be too late.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Thanks for the call, Mike. And it seems like this is the Democrats' plan to ruin the country. I mean, 8,300 Iranians arrived in the U.S. last year on non-immigrant visas. So listen, not all of them are going to be pro-Hamas. In fact, I'm sure some of these Iranians that come are very pro-America and are excited to be here. But you have to realize that they're guests. You are a guest here. You have to behave as you would behave as a guest. I wouldn't let my children go to a friend's house and act a fool. You're a guest there. You need to respect the rules of that house. And it doesn't seem like these students on visas are respecting the rules. And for that, I would say bye. Goodbye. Frank in the borough, you have a comment on visas. You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. What's up, Frank?
Well, they need to revoke them. I was in Detroit. I traveled from Tennessee up to Detroit. I took a wrong turn, and there was a road that said, Sharia law practice here, infidels not welcome. I was stopped at an intersection and told that I needed to turn around. If I didn't, they would not be responsible for what might happen to me.
Yeah, what part of Detroit were you in?
On the east side.
Really? Because I know Dearborn, Michigan is like the Islam capital of America, and I've heard about the markets there that operate under Sharia law. Like all this stuff is here already, and a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, it just amazed me that they could stop me from traveling and tell me that I was not welcome in my own country.
It's unbelievable, but listen, they bring the values from their country here. And that's how they operate in the Middle East, you know.
Well, this is America, not the Middle East.
I know, but that's exactly the issue. And I'm agreeing with you, Frank, that they shouldn't be allowed to do that. But you know who's in control of Michigan? It's spoiler alert. It's Democrats.
Yeah, imagine that.
Yeah, weird how that always seems to work out, huh, Frank?
Yeah.
Hey, appreciate the call. Thank you so much. And for the record, I could tell Frank was actually doing stuff in Detroit because he said Detroit,
not Detroit.
It's not Detroit.
Detroit. Gotcha. Okay, I didn't know that.
When Detroit is a crazy place. I live there. That's one of the first ways they can tell if you're not from there.
Really?
Yep. If you say Detroit, they're like, yeah, where are you from?
yeah, you're not one of us.
Yeah, it's the weirdest thing. When I lived in Detroit. It's one of the craziest cities. It's one of the craziest cities in America. I went to a Lions game, okay, and we're looking for parking, and this guy's like, "Hey, park here, $20, $20, perfect, easy." So we all park on this lot, and
oh gosh,
when we're leaving the game, it wasn't their lot, and everybody had parking tickets.
Yeah.
Detroit, man, it's a wonky place.
I wonder how much money that dude made.
Oh my gosh, He was cleaning up. It was the cheapest lot in town.
$20.
It was. I was like, this is a steal, and it turns out it was.
Yes,
it was a steal.
Yes.
All right. It is 10:51 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. This is the Chris Hand Show. Again, it's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. More of your calls next at 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Traffic's getting messy out there. Williamson County crash reported 65 northbound right before the Thompson Station Road overpass. There's been several crashes there this week. Also in Sumner County, you got Vietnam Veterans Boulevard eastbound between New Shackle Island Road and Indian Lake Boulevard. Looks like it's just stop and go traffic there. Maybe a volume issue. New developments in the manhunt in Maine. We'll tell you about it at 11 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. We were talking about Detroit and the no-go zones. I found this from Think Progress. They said an author went to Michigan. He said, suddenly the street signs went from English to Arabic. There wasn't a single English word on any shop or street sign. And in fact, these little yellow signs were posted all along the edges. Jeremy said to me, this is it. We don't go past this line. I said, what do you mean? You guys are Detroit Metro. You're the SWAT team. You can go anywhere you want. What if you get a call over there? He said, it's hazardous for our team. We don't go past this line. I mean, no-go zones are real. They exist in the United States. Dearborn, Michigan is not the only place that this is happening. So it's not a conspiracy theory. It's fact. It's an agenda-free Friday. We'll take more of your calls after Ken Weaver's newscast, which happens right now on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eleven o'clock on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Full forecast in 2 minutes. Right now, the manhunt in Maine update. Dive teams leading a search near the boat launch. This is where mass shooting suspect Robert Card left his car.
The river is a big piece of this, and that's why dive teams are going to be going in. It does sound like they believe there could be clues, if not a body of the suspect, in the water or in the woods. Now, they did not definitively come out and say that, but we know they have what's been described to us as a suicide note. They also have not heard any gunshots since the initial mass shooting.
Aaron Kontersky reporting. Israel-Hamas war. The White House says they'll have to wait and see if Iran strikes back after U.S. fighter jets struck 2 targets in Syria in retaliation to recent attacks against U.S. forces as the conflict in Gaza escalates.
It's not uncommon for them to strike back. If they do, we'll absolutely do what we have to do to protect our troops and our facilities. We'll be ready for that.
National Security spokesman John Kirby. Here at home, the New York judge overseeing former President Trump's civil fraud trial has denied a motion to keep his daughter Ivanka from testifying. And in money news, the average cost of a gallon of gasoline falling for the 5th consecutive week. Here in Middle Tennessee, the average price is $3.24 per gallon, according to Gas Buddy. And if you own a Hyundai, you'll want to mark your calendar. Jim Ryan says the company that built your car plans to install a software update.
In response to the TikTok-inspired theft of thousands of its vehicles, Hyundai will hold a series of events where owners can have anti-theft software installed. The carmaker is also offering a low-tech approach to the problem, distributing thousands of steering wheel locks to police departments to be given out to Hyundai owners whose cars have proven remarkably easy to steal.
Yeah, here in Nashville, police say from this time last year, there has been a 410% increase in Hyundai and Kia thefts. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey everybody, Dan Mattis with Nashville's Morning News on WTN. I'm here at the Nashville Rescue Mission doing the interviews that I look forward to doing every single year. These are incredible stories of people who have had amazing recoveries. Thanks to this amazing facility, they are able to get clean and lead a more productive life. The date of our annual Radiothon is going to be Monday, November 20th. Listen in and please donate. You can get more information at 99.7 WTN, including a link to the website for Nashville's Rescue Mission.
The temperature's going up and down and up and down. You're kicking on your AC. You're kicking on your heat. Hey, it's Chris Hanford, Jeff Eddy's Efficient Heating and Cooling. If you're noticing your HVAC system is on the fritz, I got a guy for you to call, Jeff Eddy and his crew. I mean, it can be so hard to find somebody that you trust when it comes to fixing your HVAC. Are they selling you a bill of goods or are they telling you the truth? Well, with Efficient HVAC, you can trust them to tell you the truth. They're a small company, but they have big service, and you know what's even better? They're honest. So if you're trying to make that decision to repair or replace your system, even if you had another guy come tell you that you got to replace it, call Jeff Eddy and his team for a second opinion, because the other guys, they may just pressure you to replace your system because, well, they make more money that way. Not with Jeff Eddy and his crew. They're looking for lifetime customers, and if it just means replacing a part, they'll tell you just replace a part. Plus, with Efficient, they offer up to 18 months, same as cash financing on your next unit. They're a diamond contractor with Mitsubishi Electric and an Elite Pro partner with Rheem. Go to efficienthvac.net or call 615-784-4424. $11:05 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. If you noticed the pause, it's because I was doing math in my head. I'm broadcasting live from Phoenix, Arizona, where we are 2 hours behind, and time is hard. Math is hard.
Nice job, man.
Chris, thank you. It's Chris. And I'm broadcasting live from the Turning Point USA studios. These guys have been so kind to me to let me use these studios, and I thank the whole team here for helping me get so comfortable in these studios. They're fantastic. It is an agenda-free Friday. You can talk to us about anything you want to talk about, 615-737-9986. 615-737-9986. Wayne has some observations about Nashville, and I thought that this call sounded fascinating. Wayne, you're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Well, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. What's up, Wayne?
Well, what the deal is, I got a kick out of listening to that gentleman talking about going up to Detroit, and I'm originally from Detroit, and actually what he says is 101% truth. I had a friend that I was working with, one of the airlines in Detroit. He was Arabic, and he took me down there and he goes through the fatouche and shawarmas or whatever his food and all that. Real nice guy and everything else like that. But we got down there in Dearborn, off of Michigan Avenue, deep in there, and we got told to turn around, even that he was with me. I didn't belong there. And there's something, when you're talking about with Nashville and stuff, I love Nashville. Okay, I still love Detroit, but I love Nashville. But what I noticed is armed security, and I hate to say this, and I don't mean to take people off, but I give Nashville another 30 years, and she's going to be like Chicago and Detroit. I've seen where they've had the parties going up and down, women whizzing over to the side of the little pull carts, guys doing the same thing. It's a zoo. I hate to say that, but Nashville, in my own opinion, is growing too quick. They have no control or anything else like that. They got cops all over the place and everything, when they have their parties and this, and that's great, But I've seen things going on there that I've seen 30 years ago back in Detroit.
Hey,
and it's just like I'm reliving my life again.
Yeah, it's hard to not see, the crime getting rampant, everybody moving in so quickly and not see the potential for that getting out of control.
But that's like I said, I'm not trying to take anyone off, but I'm just trying to be, as an outsider, I have come in, open mind, and seen, and I've worked up there, okay? And I'm just explaining to you what I've seen.
Yeah, no, I don't think you're taking anybody off. I think a lot of people that listen to this station look at Nashville and do worry about what the future holds with how fast we're growing, with the crime that we're seeing, and where we may be in 5 or 10 years.
Well, something else that I noticed, just to bring up, majority of stuff that I dealt with, and I can't get into too much with you on, it wasn't the people from Tennessee, okay, that were creating it wasn't the people from the outside that were creating the problems. It was the homebred, the home Tennessee.
Oh, did we lose Wayne? I think we lost Wayne.
Oh.
Man. And he was getting to the point, all right. Wayne, call back if you get a better signal. I want to hear the end of that. He said it was the people in Tennessee that were causing some problems. That's interesting. Man, I wish we had more from that. Charlie in Manchester, you have a comment on the visas and the Biden administration's lack of willingness to revoke them from pro-Hamas students. What's up, Charlie? You're on Super Talk.
Yeah, Chris, hope you're enjoying sunny Arizona.
Yeah. Hey, as best I can, I would much rather be in Tennessee. Full disclosure, but I'm here and I'm you know.
Well, today it's sunny here too, but I always enjoy listening to you. I think you're like, you're honest and unbiased, and I really appreciate that.
Well, hey, I appreciate you listening, man. Thank you so much for the kind words. What do you want to talk about? You want to talk about visas?
Yeah, the visas. I want to make a statement, maybe a question or something. Hamas is a terrorist organization, is it not? What's the difference between them and ISIS? Do you remember them and the Twin Towers?
Yeah, well, the Twin Towers was Al-Qaeda, allegedly.
Well, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, they're all terrorist organizations, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
All right. Well, there's your answer to the visas and the southern border.
Mm-hmm. No, if somebody's going to... I just think that you're going to get a lot of these kids from Iran that will come over here with these visas and will be very pro-America. But if you're out there chanting pro-Hamas, rallying for Hamas, you should have your visa revoked. You're clearly anti-American, and that's where my issue is.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is all these terrorist organizations, remember the Twin Towers and what can happen, you know.
Yep. Yeah, no.
So that's all I've got to say about that. Everybody just remember.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Charlie. I really appreciate it. One thing I'll point out with all of this is with all of the terrorist stuff, it seems like we constantly put ourselves in the land of unforeseen consequences, right? The unintended consequences. It was the CIA that funded Osama bin Laden to fight the Russians in the 80s. It was Obama that funded ISIS to be the moderate rebels in Syria. And it seems like Joe Biden now is funding Hamas via these $6 billion hostage payments for Iran, releasing some of these oil sanctions. It always seems to be our own government doing the shooting of our own foot. So that's something that I keep note of and mental note of. Wayne is back on line one. Wayne had lost service a minute ago. Wayne, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm sorry about that. I don't know how we got cut off, but what I was getting into, the majority of the people that I dealt with that were doing things that were wrong weren't the outsiders. It was a home person or the homeless. Matter of fact, in one of our places, or close to one of the places, right in front, homeless had the homeless staff. And then there was about a week or so later, there was something across the street off of Broadway and 4th. There was a beating, a stabbing, or something off in that. But, I mean, that's what I'm saying. A lot of the stuff reminds me, back in Detroit 30 years ago. Yeah, but a lot of stuff that we've run into, and I'm not trying to insult anyone or pick on anyone, but, I mean, it's just like it all gets hit. This stuff don't happen. Why? Because Nashville wants to make money. And that's my only conclusion. Tasting the welfare, isn't exactly, to me, top priority. It's that big buck. Now, if I'm wrong, but I'm just saying what I see as an outsider, living in a place that was, when you were in school, you had to fight to keep going, and it's a mess, and I hate to see that happen to Nashville, but I hate to say possibly she'll, in 30 years, give or take, she might be like Chicago and Detroit.
Yeah, no, I hear you, Wayne, and a lot of people on the super text line are agreeing with you, saying Detroit, Chicago, New York, L.A., Nashville will be like Chicago in less than 10 years. Many people are hearing what you're saying and agreeing.
Okay, well, I thank you and I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm not trying to insult anyone or hurt anyone's feelings, but I'm an outsider, and this is what I see, this is what my wife sees, this is what my kids see.
Yeah, no, I totally get it, Wayne. And sometimes you have to. Hey, I appreciate it. Sometimes you have to look at things from a third party stance, and it does take an objective set of eyes to realize the issues that are there in front of you. And the homeless problem is an issue downtown. I mean, it's wild. It's wild.
And I don't think Wayne's offending anyone of our listeners. I think we're all equally concerned, like Wayne. So
yeah, I don't think Wayne wasn't pointing the finger.
No.
Wayne was just trying to explain what he's seeing, and I think that's good. I like this stuff.
Yeah, no, 227. I mean, this person even thinks it's going to be quicker. Nashville will be like Chicago in less than 10 years. Wayne estimated more around 30.
Oh, jeez. I mean, Nashville, dude, it is a mess down there. Like the amount of homeless and the craziness, the Nash Vegas vibe. It's hard to disagree with that.
And then another text, 4310. I just moved to Nashville area from Chicago less than a year ago. This is a little bit more hopeful. The problems in Chicago are generational problems. Nashville will not be like Chicago, at least for probably 50 years.
Oh, so she's saying there's a chance.
There's still a chance.
Well, I mean, generational problems, yeah, I understand that. But we are in Nashville. So many people are moving in so fast that, the further away you get from Nashville, the better it is. Do you know what I mean? At least that's how I feel down in the borough.
Bingo.
I don't want to live in East Nashville. Like that's not the move. I'll take Murfreesboro over that any day of the week. Also, Rutherford County's full.
Yeah, they got real big spiders.
Yeah, big spiders and no houses for sale. We're
right. Well, big spiders in the houses that are for sale. So stay away.
Oh yeah, huge ones.
Yeah. Yep. There's spiders everywhere. Giant spiders.
Big ones.
Thank you, Ken Weaver, for confirming the spider story out of Murfreesboro. That's our newsman, so you know it's true.
That.
You can honestly take that to the bank.
I have sources.
Ken, you're so funny. All right, there is more to talk about. We haven't even gotten to the fact that the U.S. conducted a strike in Syria last night. This is a big story, and we have not even had a moment to cover it because we've been so focused on Maine and also getting into off on tangents on different things. But the U.S. did conduct airstrikes last night against Iran-backed militias in Syria. Now, when our boy John Kirby, and Mac, you're going to have to grab this audio for me. John Kirby was asked about this basically during the press conference yesterday. A reporter was kind of giving it to him because our bases have been under attack in the Middle East, and she's like, "Well, when are you guys going to retaliate?" And she was basically handing it to John Kirby, and this is what John Kirby said.
John, the president said that if Iran or its proxies attacked U.S. troops, that we would respond. So what is he waiting for exactly?
He did say that.
Where's the response?
He said that. And he said that we will.
Repeating the warning is the response?
Jackie, come on now.
Come on.
I'm not going to telegraph punches here from the podium. We have responded and retaliated in the past, quite aggressively, in fact, back in March. And as the president said, we will not hesitate to protect our troops and our facilities, but we're going to do it at a time of our choosing and a manner of our choosing. And the decision to do it, if we do it, is his as commander-in-chief and his alone.
Well, spoiler alert, I don't know if John Kirby felt pressure or if this was already planned, but the U.S. did conduct airstrikes last night in Syria, and they broke in during Hannity. Hannity was interviewing Jim Jordan last night, and the breaking news came right through, and we have that clip for you. U.S. conducts airstrikes in Syria.
Oh, Jennifer, this sounds like huge news.
Sean, we can report, based on senior military sources, that U.S. warplanes have carried out airstrikes tonight inside Syria against Iranian proxy forces. We don't know the number of strikes. We were told earlier today to expect that perhaps F-15s and F-16s would be involved in the airstrikes, but we don't have confirmation yet about how many warplanes. But those strikes have been carried out. I'm told it is in response to the more than dozen strikes against U.S. bases. The message is a clear message designed to Iran and its proxy forces to stop carrying out these drone and rocket attacks against U.S. bases. But I'm told that the planes have safely left the area and that the airstrikes are complete at this time. They were targeting multiple locations inside Syria and Iranian proxy forces, Sean.
Yeah, and the strikes were against two facilities in eastern Syria used by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, as well as of Iran, as well as one of the Iranian-backed militia groups in the region. The Pentagon stated that they want to make it clear that the airstrikes tonight were only conducted to protect U.S. troops and have nothing to do with the Israel-Hamas war, while also urging all parties in the nation and the region to not escalate the situation into a broader regional conflict. And I don't know, man. I feel like they could say that it has nothing to do with that, but if the strikes on the U.S. bases were in response to U.S. supporting Israel versus Hamas, and then we strike back, it's hard to rationalize that one had nothing to do with the other. But maybe that's just me, and I could be wrong. Maybe other parties in these conflicts will say, oh, yeah, that has nothing to do with that. But I don't know if they'll feel the same way just because we say so. Fred in Greenbrier, you have a comment on the college protests. Fred, you're on Super Talk 99.7. What's up?
Hey, brother, how you doing? Hanging out there in, where'd you say, Arizona?
Yeah, man, I'm at the Turning Point USA studios in Phoenix, Arizona. What's up?
Well, I got one other comment, too. I live in God's country up north of Nashville in Robertson County, so yeah. I agree. I left Nashville many years ago for lots of reasons. But anyway, these college protests, I can understand some of these people that are here on visas and all, and they're protesting. I'd like to get rid of them. But our own people, the American citizens that are out there joining them, my question is, where in the heck are the parents of these kids that are allowed to, if I'm a parent and my kid's out there doing that crap, I'd cut off the money and they, I don't know, they'd be on their own from here on out.
Hey,
what's your thoughts on that?
I get where you're coming from. My first initial thought would be the parents probably have no idea. You know what I mean? You send your kid away to college. Hey, how was school today? It was great. They probably have no idea that they skipped class to go to a pro-Hamas protest. I'm sure that when you see videos...
Maybe the parents need to do a little more investigating.
Maybe so, but I mean, at a certain point, they're only going to know what the kids are going to tell them. Everybody's got their lives, and if you have a 20-year-old in college, you can't police every moment of it.
I thought the Department of Justice was supposed to be fighting this anti-Semitism and all that stuff.
Well,
I guess they only go after Trump people, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're focused on the MAGA extremists, which is the real number one threat to our country: white supremacy and MAGA extremists.
Yeah. Anyway, when I see them out there like last night burning our flag, man, it makes me so dadgum mad. I don't want to say what I could do, but anyway,
don't
you're
say
doing
it.
a great
Just
job,
imply it.
and,
I get it.
Hang in there.
Hey, I appreciate you, man.
Hang in there, brother.
Hey, I get you. It's frustrating, and I think the visas of those foreign students need to be revoked. The American ones, it's like you're allowed to have your free speech. You have the right to protest, and you're allowed to be wrong in America. I agree. Maybe the parents should be more involved. I certainly would want to know if my kids were involved in some kind of protest and give them a good talking to. And like the last caller said, maybe stop paying all the bills if that's what they're into. Like, not on my dime. It is 11:22 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Active crime scene outside of a high school in Maryland, and divers are searching for evidence and potential bodies in the Maine manhunt. These stories and more coming up at 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Ken Weaver. It's 11:26 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It's an agenda-free Friday. We can talk about anything you want to talk about at 615-737-9986. That's 615-737-9986. Will in Nashville, you say you got some info on visas and, possibly pulling visas from pro-Hamas students and foreigners on college campus. Will, you're on Super Talk. What's up?
Yeah, I was listening to you guys talk about this and Biden not wanting to stop, basically terror supporters from coming into the country. So I went on the United States Department of State to look at what it requires for the visa. Mm-hmm. There may be a way around this, because before you can apply for and I'm reading this from their website, before you can apply for an F, J, or M student visa, you must first apply and be accepted by a U.S. institution of higher education that is certified by, it's called the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP. So I know there are a lot of, like Harvard, had a lot of their donors, said, we're not donating to you anymore.
Yeah.
They've lost, I know a lot of these institutions, Ivy League colleges, have lost like $500 million because the donors are sick of their students, supporting, and then the college supporting those students who are supporting the Palestinians right after they, horribly murdered unarmed citizens, mm-hmm. and even mothers and babies. And there's so much evidence of this they put online. I could understand maybe before these students supporting the Palestinians, they have different views and they think, well, this is something new, I can pick this up. These are kids to me. But I could understand it before, but not anymore. There's so much video evidence of these terrorists going in and gleefully killing people and beheading, mothers and babies. It's sick. They're absolutely sick. And these students think they're supporting a good cause when they're basically supporting these terrorists.
Yeah.
But this is a way around it. You might be able to contact these institutions, and if you're donating to them, stop and tell them why, and tell them to stop allowing these students. Don't allow them to come into their institution. They have to be accepted before they can come to this country to go to a college.
Yeah, unfortunately, it seems like a lot of these countries are just run by communists now, and they like the cheering on of these terrorist groups. So, donors be damned, it seems like.
Yeah, I agree, but we can also, Biden is going to say, "Oh well, let's just let them come in." We can also fight back and go to the colleges themselves and say, "Look, quit accepting them."
Yeah, hey, that's
around him just saying, "Oh yeah, we're not going to block them."
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Will, and maybe anybody that are donating to these colleges should go and tell them, if you want my donation, that's the rub. Thanks for the call, Will. I really appreciate it. If
no problem.
If Joe Biden was asked about it, he would probably say something like, "Well, anyway, I'm not going to get into it." So,
Well, Joe's also, Joe is also saying billions for Ukraine so they can protect themselves from a, totalitarian government, but then turns around and says to Americans, we need to take away your weapons.
Yeah, isn't it weird how that works? It's 11:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Ken Weaver's got the latest headlines for you right now.
$11:30 on the dot. I'm Ken Weaver with your top stories. Watching a line of showers moving slowly this way. Right now, leading edge has passed Jackson, which if you're measuring by driving distance, that's about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hour drive west of Nashville. It is slowly creeping this way, but that line stretches up into Clarksville. Raining in Clarksville right now. And we'll get you the full forecast in 2 minutes. Active crime scene in Baltimore this morning. 3 teenagers were shot as students were arriving to school at a West Side high school. Fortunately, the injuries are non-life-threatening. Manhunt in Maine update. Divers heading into the water off a dock in Lewiston. where mass shooting suspect Robert Card had a boat and near where his car was abandoned, following a barrage of airstrikes into Gaza by IDF forces over the past 24 hours. A Hamas-launched rocket struck an apartment building in Tel Aviv this morning. And New York Republican Congressman George Santos facing even more fraud charges. At an arraignment this morning in his Long Island district, Santos pleaded not guilty to charges of identity theft, making tens of thousands of dollars in unauthorized charges on credit cards belonging to some of his campaign donors. That's the latest news. Weather is next. I'm Ken Weaver, WTN News.
Hey folks, I'm Paul Winkler. One of the biggest decisions people have to make in retirement is how to take Social Security. You'll get all kinds of workshops about that, and you'll see all kinds of things about that particular topic. Because Social Security, for some people, it might be a third or even more of their income in retirement. So you want to get this decision right. Well, how do you make the decision? Well, one of the things we look at, there are programs we use. This is one of the simpler programs that we use right here. And I want to just show you how it works and how it actually unravels some of the misconceptions we have about Social Security. So we have two people here, they're age 60, and they're looking at filing for Social Security. One person has a retirement benefit of $2,500. That is their main benefit from Social Security at their full retirement age. The other one has a $500 benefit. And what we can do here, which is kind of cool, is look at this and say, okay, well, what if we have this person has that life expectancy and that person has that life expectancy there? And then what we do is we assume a certain cost of living increase in Social Security. What would be the optimal for taking the benefit where they get the most benefit or the most bang from their buck? And where we see the star, that shows that we would have the best benefit. Now, this is one person filing at age 67, the other person at age 70. Well, a lot of people think, well, I retire, I have to take Social Security at the same time that I retire, and that's not necessarily the case. As you can see here, one may take it at one age and one may take it at another, even though they're the same age right now. Now, the other thing we can do is say, well, what if I took it early? What if I took it at this particular age right here, where one person's 65 and the other one's 65? You can actually see how much it could cost in benefits. When we do this, we can see how much it might cost us and how much it might affect us negatively to do that. Now, the other thing we can do is we can play around the life expectancies, and we say, well, if this person lives to that age, now the cost is $187,000 in this particular example, taking it at that age right there. So you can see, based on your own life expectancy, and typically people will say, well, what did my parents live to, and come up with that type of data. So this is just part of the financial planning process that we use at Paul Winkler Inc. If you want to know more about what we do, you can get a free 15-minute phone call at our website, paulwinkler.com. We do financial planning, full financial planning. We do investing, education, and investing. We actually help people through those decisions, helping them set up their 401ks and those types of decisions, as well as risk management. But we don't get paid on commission. That's what makes us so different from other firms out there that do what we do. So if you want to find out more, go to paulwinkler.com.
11:36 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. My name is Chris Hand. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. 615-737-9986. Call or jump on the Super Text line. I got a text here for you, Mac, from 9038.
Oh, okay.
Said this is in the spirit of agenda-free Friday, and we can talk about anything. Do you think the Vols will beat Kentucky Saturday night?
It's going to be a close game, but yes. Let's go Vols. We got this. GBO.
Okay. All right.
The Vols are in a weird spot where we could literally lose to anyone and also beat anyone. That's how I feel about this team.
Oh, all right. Any given Sunday, right?
Yeah.
Or Saturday, whatever.
In this case, Saturday, yeah.
I don't really do sports ball that much. Jason sent a text. We were talking about the protesters on college campuses, and the Biden administration doesn't want to revoke their foreign visas. The pro-Hamas protesters. Jason sent a text. I feel like Jason is just like, what's wrong with the youth today? He says, why aren't kids in college running around trying to get laid and go to parties? Why are they going to these stupid protests? Well, I would wager, Jason, that quite a few of these dumb college kids are just trying to impress girls. That's probably part of it. There's this girl I like. She's really into this conflict. I better go to this protest with her. I'm sure.
That's easy brownie points.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a huge part of it. I saw one video of a pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protester. She's just wailing, going on about how they need to do a boycott. They need to boycott Domino's, and they need to boycott Papa John's, and they need to boycott Nike. And it zoomed out, and she was wearing a pair of Nike shoes. So, to quote President Trump, they're not sending their best. They're just not. Cecil in Smyrna, you have a comment on the foreign visas and the protesters. You're on Super Talk. What's up, Cecil?
Yes, sir. I used to live out there in Phoenix. I really enjoyed the weather out there. With all this inclusion and everything, I think these people that are coming to our country are going to use our own laws to basically destroy us when we're dead, because when the 1964 Civil Rights Amendment was passed and no person shall be discriminated against based upon race, color, or creed, well, if you have a religion that's preaching jihad, and that's their religion, and they want death to the infidel, which is including Israel and us, then you're basically allowing these people to come over here, and because of our laws of inclusion, they're using this to destroy us. There has to be a line drawn somewhere. There has to be. These people in these colleges, I don't think that they quite understand. Now, the Palestinian people, they just wanted a two-state situation. That was fine, but what they don't realize is that jihad is infiltrating it. They're using that territory on the West Bank to attack Israel. And unfortunately, the Palestinian people are getting caught up in that. And so, now, I can understand them, on what's well with the Palestinian people, but unfortunately, the Palestinian territory cannot stay in the West Bank close to Israel like that, because they have Hamas infiltrating them. So what they have to do, they have to totally just go through and wipe that whole area out. That way they know that they don't have to worry about their territory no more. That's what has to take place. Death to the infidels for us, America. So they're out there protesting their own demise.
Yeah, hey, I get where you're coming from, Cecil, and I really appreciate the call. I tend to think that wiping out the whole area is it's going to lead to more conflict, more war, and I don't know. I hope Israel goes in and handles what they need to handle, and then we can put an end to all this. Rocco in Lewisburg, you have a comment on the modern left. Rocco, what's up, man? You're on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Hey, how you doing? Okay.
I'm good, man.
So, I'm glad to hear it. So, okay, I did my research. Don't worry, I did the thinking for you, so just try to follow along. All right, it all started with the death of Harambe and the birth of the hipster, all right? The birth of the hipster, those people that like that terrible music, the barista / college graduate, and when they say, hey, their good is out, is like the collective bad. They made the collective bad their good, and the collective good their bad. It's almost like they hold the complete opposite opinion just because they want to feel special. They want to feel like they're they're an individual. Well, they found their little niche, their group of these hipsters, and they turned it into the, just like, hey, whatever your view or the collective good is, we're going to hold the opposite opinion. And they, and the media really just ran with it and made these, these villains in movies. We used to call them the bad guys, but now they're not bad. They're just misunderstood. And, that's why the modern left just goes with these groups like Hamas or the Palestinians and the terroristic types, and say, hey, they're not bad. They're just misunderstood. And that's why we have no middle ground. You're either with them or you're against them. That's why they are like just a hive mind. Whatever they think, they're gonna just run with it. That whatever. So where there is no universal good or universal bad. When 9/11 happened, that was as close to universal, thinking to say, hey, this was a bad thing that happened. And now, now it's like people look back on it and they're like, hey, they're just misunderstood. And it's just getting out of hand,
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. It is getting out of hand. And I appreciate the call, Rocco. I think it's funny that you said, I did all the research. I'll do the thinking for you. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I got a text here on the super text line from 4864. They sent us one of the memes from Turning Point USA. It says, here's an idea, a reality show where socialist college students are sent to a country that closely resembles their desired political system and left to survive for a few months. Yeah, it would be a great reality show if the cameras wouldn't be stolen and you could actually film there. Unbelievable. 615-737-9986. It's an agenda-free Friday. Anything you want to talk about, we can talk about. U.S. Last night did launch airstrikes against Iran's proxy forces in Syria. They're calling them precision self-defense strikes and saying that they're a response to the ongoing and mostly unsuccessful attacks against U.S. personnel in Iraq and Syria by Iranian-backed militia groups. So they broke in to the middle of Hannity and Jim Jordan last night on Fox News. They were talking about Joe Biden's crimes, and all of a sudden we have to talk about escalation in the Middle East. U.S. fighter jets launched airstrikes against facilities in Syria that are being used by Iran. The strikes are following the U.S. forces in Iraq and Syria being attacked this week by Iranian-backed Islamic terrorists. Lloyd Austin said in a statement that the U.S. military forces conducted these self-defense strikes on 2 facilities in eastern Syria used by the IRGC and affiliated groups. So while we're escalating conflicts overseas, we're funding a war in Ukraine against a tyrannical government. While all that's happening, meanwhile in the U.S., they want to take away our guns because of a mass shooting in Maine, and numerous Democrat politicians are jumping out to say just that. Mark in Nashville, you are on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You have a different take on Australia. What's up, Mark? You're on Super Talk.
Thanks for taking the call. Had to drop earlier when you were in the conversation, but it's like many of your hosts say, it's not what they're telling us, what they're not telling us. So if they want us to be like Australia, it's not that they want to take the guns away. They're learning from Australia how to control the mass media down in Australia so that people don't see the violence from guns and everything else, so they're hiding it. So that's what they're after, right? They're trying to figure out how to control the mass media, as they are already, to where now they've used the mass media to portray the assault rifle, and I put that in quotes because anything can be an assault rifle, right? Anything can be an assault weapon. So I think it's more about them learning from Australia how to completely control the mass media versus just getting rid of the guns, because I think that's really their agenda.
Well, I would take it a step further. It's them figuring out how to completely control the mass population. If you look at Australia's response to COVID, they had COVID-19 quarantine camps where they would bring you and you weren't allowed to leave. They had restrictions where you couldn't leave your home. You were basically restricted to a certain radius around your home, and if you went outside of that, you could be fined or arrested. If you criticize the government on the internet, they're showing up at your home. You criticize the COVID policies on Facebook, they're showing up at your home. There was a viral video in Australia of a pregnant woman who criticized the COVID policies and was arrested in Australia for putting that on Facebook. I think that it's an exercise in population control, not just mass media.
Fair enough.
Yeah, no, I mean, but hey, I appreciate the call, and I think that they look at these pseudo-European nations and look at the control that they have over the population, and I think that the communists running the Democratic Party envy that, and they want that for themselves. They want that kind of power.
Yes. Thanks for taking the call. Appreciate what you are doing. Keep it up.
Hey, man, I appreciate you listening. We couldn't do it without you, Mark. Here's another call for you, Mac. It's an agenda-free Friday, and Jerry in Kingston Springs wants to talk about a Titans trade. What's up, Jerry?
Oh, yeah. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, it's not really a trade, but I just wanted to break some news that, since they're getting all these players from the Titans, the Philadelphia Eagles just announced they're going to be buying the LP Field Stadium and transporting it. That way the players feel at home in the Super Bowl when we beat the Chiefs.
Oh, wow. What a take. Oh, I love it, Jerry. Coming in hot.
No, but on the political side, that lady you played earlier, the nutbag that was saying take all the guns because of the shooting, unfortunately, over there in Maine, the guy, last caller, had it right on the money, It's an inanimate object. Assault is a bad word. AR-15 does not stand for assault rifle. It stands for Armalite. That's the company that made the first AR-15. So these people twist the language. They do all this stuff, get everyone all scared. Without guns, we'll wind up like Israel, where some invading country comes in and kills everyone and rapes everyone, and we have nothing to defend ourselves with.
Well,
so, I mean, think about that.
We'd all be forced to pick up our assault hammers, you know what I mean? Or our assault bats or assault golf clubs. Like you said, anything can be an assault weapon.
I agree with you about the population control. That is really what it's all about. I mean, I'm sick and tired. I'm a veteran of us fighting wars all over the world and losing all these people, and then the politicians turn around and pull us out and give them all our weapons and free stuff, and then we look like idiots, and then we lose all these people, and they have arms and legs missing and PTSD. I mean, They're just making money off of weapons, starting these wars, and it's killing millions of people every time they start a world war. You know how many people die. So that game, go ahead.
And they double dip, like we saw in Iraq.
Yes, they do.
Joe Biden's brother gets contracts to rebuild the areas that we bombed.
And you remember Halliburton, Kellogg, Brown and Root, all that stuff under Bush, and they made a fortune over there rebuilding. Yeah. Now they're rebuilding Vietnam. Every country we've been at war with, they've rebuilt on our money, and we have nothing to show for it. Like Trump said, $7 trillion, after this 25-year desert warfare. And what do we have to show for it with Biden and Obama? Nothing. We just lost a lot of people's lives. Yep.
You're absolutely right. Hey, thanks for the call, Jerry, and always appreciate a good troll on Mac. So.
It's okay.
I agree with all of his political takes, but I love the troll. I do. That was my favorite part of the call.
Keep him coming.
It's 11:50 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Murphy Show kicking off at noon. We'll check in with him next, see what we can expect on Murphy Show right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Mac Morey, right before we go to the break, goes, what time do I need to be out? He said, I'll be in your ear. I said, oh, you're always in my heart. I said, you're live.
You're on, bro.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Chris Hand, Matt Murphy in studio. Apparently, are you doing the cross? Are we not doing the cross, Matt?
Under duress.
Under duress.
With objection. I throw a flag on this cross.
All right. I'm
Hello.
sorry you're so upset. I've missed
Hello,
you.
Hand. How are you?
Good.
I'm upset because you're not here. You're off in gallivanting with Turning Point USA in Phoenix, Arizona, seeming to have a great time. Although it's my understanding that you're confined to a room where you cannot leave. Otherwise, you might get locked out. So that's preventing opportunities to go to the bathroom. That's my understanding.
This is true.
Might have overheard that between yourself and your producer. Yeah.
But, I am. We're out here in Phoenix, Turning Point USA. We're doing the work to save America, Matt.
Well, I am happy just to be a part of your coattails as you do that. I'm, did you get a chance to talk? I don't mean to, put us out in the left field here. Did you get a chance to talk about the Robert E. Lee statue at all?
I did not, but I have family in Charlottesville, and that whole story drives me nuts because one of the things that people don't realize is, like, if you read anything on the Civil War, is the enormous respect that the North and the South generals had for one another, and the fact that they're melting that down and just wiping out history drives me insane.
Well, right, and it's the wiping of history. We have to pretend that something did not exist in order to examine, study, and diagnose or discuss the historical impact of it. Like, we don't have to agree on the Civil War in order to study this. It's just, it's a fascinating aspect of this. I'll be talking about it. Plus, the possibilities of World War III. Joe Biden might be sliding us into World War III. You never know. Hey, I know you've been talking about it.
Oh, World War III is imminent. I feel like...
I don't know that I'm going imminent.
I feel like it's imminent. And a draft.
Whew. Well, that's dangerous.
I know. Fingers crossed it doesn't happen, but it's probably going to happen.
I'll cross everything. Fingers, legs.
Murphy show up next. He's all crossed up for you. It's Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Testes. Everything.